Hey guys, I'm an Australian in Belarus, but I'm currently in Mexico City, and something has really hit me. In Belarus and Russia, you have a lot of thoughts. You probably have that 5 to 10% of girls that are outright thoughts. If you don't know what a thought is, it's like a girl who hypersexualizes her appearance. Yeah, she'll go to extraordinary lengths, both in terms of time, money, and really sexualizing how she looks in order to attract a man, usually with resources. Yeah, so it's a money thing, right? In other countries, it can be different. Like here, you have a small micro strain of them called Bochona, which is also translates to pigeon, and that would mean here a girl that really sexualizes herself and goes for the narco guys. But it's a very small sub niche here. Yeah. Whereas in Belarus, Russia, 5 to 10% of girls are hyper thoughts, at a level of thoughtness that you never see anywhere else in the world. Yeah, hyper thoughts. And it's not unique to there, but there's definitely a high proportion of them in Russia and Belarus and anywhere else in the world. Easy fucking lead. All right, easy fucking lead. They dominate. And you get used to them. You get used to them, especially Belarusian girls, in the cafe, taking photos of each other, going to the restaurant, ordering the meal, spending 2 hours taking 1,500 fucking photos of every angle and then checking their look to make sure it's what they want. Yeah? And then they don't even eat the meal. Now this also happens a lot in Southeast Asia. The girls will go to a nice little cafe, they'll order a cake, they'll order a drink, and then they don't really even eat them. Like they might take a sip, but they spend 2 hours taking photos of each other. Yeah? Now Russian girls don't do this as much. When Russian girls do this, it tends to be like more practical. Yeah, it's more practical. They'll be like, that guy was staring at me. Undercover cops with their little lights there. When Russian girls do this, they're more like about the end goal. Let's get some good photos for my Instagram and then get on with life. Whereas Belarusian girls and Southeast Asian girls, they tend just to be hypnotized by the camera and hypnotized by themselves. It's a different mentality. It's kind of interesting. But anyway, you get a lot of this, and even in Southeast Asia, this kind of thotty trend is really going up. I was just in Da Nang, Vietnam for quite a few months, and I really noticed it there. There's this entire cafes made for Instagram for the girls to get their best clothes on, and that's how they'll spend their Saturday afternoon. 50 years ago they would have been, probably working, but looking for a guy. Whereas now it's like feeding their own kind of narcissism. Yeah, and it is really narcissistic, and it's hard to argue that it's anything but really unhealthy. Now, what's the point of this video? I'm not trying to bash the 5% of Belarusian girls or 5% of Vietnamese girls that are thoughts, right? That's not the point of this. The point of this, because you know what I'm talking about, right? Like if you've paid attention, you've been around, you understand what I'm saying. Although a lot of guys don't pay a lot of attention to what's happening around them, but assuming you do, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? And most people, especially of my age, my vintage, kind of middle-aged, we hate this behavior. We were raised to think it was terrible, vacuous, and evil. And when we see young girls doing it, and it does seem to be a girl thing, you just don't see guys do it much. You really barely see guys do it at all, actually. We get triggered by it, right? We're like, oh my God, these idiots, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying, right? Now, I'm in Mexico, and I'm in Mexico City. And obviously, it's a bit of an economic, cultural, everything else kind of hub. Let me turn you around. It's no point just staring at me. I'll just show you where I'm walking. There you go. This is one of the few traffic lights where you can actually wait for a green man and cross. Otherwise, you got to try and work out when the best way to cross is. So in Mexico, I noticed really quickly, I'm just going to keep the camera really close to my mouth so you can try and hear me over the trucks and traffic. I noticed really quickly that there's almost no thoughts here. Like really no thoughts. Although some girls will dress in a more sexual way, but not in the same way Russian girls do, more in a dirtier, sexier, tattooed kind of way, different kind of look. But their mentality is not the same as a thought. It's really interesting. You just don't get thought behavior. You don't get Instagram cafes. Yeah, again, entire cafes in a place like Da Nang, it's just for girls and their Instagrams. That's the whole purpose of it. Like, this is what happens. Whereas here, you won't get that in Mexico. You do not get that. You don't get I just haven't seen any of this taking photos of each other for hours, looking like, because when you're looking at the girls' eyes when they're doing this, they look like they're fucking drug addicted and they're high, you know? That's how it looks, yeah? But here, mate, you don't get it at all. You don't really get thoughts at all. Barely, seldom. And they're not behaving like this. They're not taking a zillion photos of each other. They're not going to a cafe to do that, right? Oh, thanks, mate. What a good bloke. I wasn't even looking to cross there. I was kind of hanging back a bit to film. And he ushered me across. A lot of Mexicans are very polite, I have to say. They do certainly have that in their culture. And I think that's tied in to what I'm talking about today. Because what I'm talking about today is there's no thoughts in Mexico. You don't get Instagram thoughts. You don't get idiot girls going to a cafe and just taking photos of each other. You don't get that. They go to cafes and they talk to each other. Like you barely ever see the phones out either. Yeah? They talk to each other. It's fascinating. It's such a social culture. People are really linked into each other. It's pretty serious bit of fucking work here. They're linked into each other and you just don't get this behaviour. You don't get this vacuous, materialistic, self-absorbed, because it is hyper self-absorbed. As I say, when you look in the girls' eyes when they're doing this, especially in Vietnam, I notice this a lot, they're just in this kind of, like they're high on drugs or something. The drugs of their own narcissism. It's fucking sick, mate. It's not good. But here you just don't get it. Like you don't even get a sniff of it. You know what I mean? Like the average girl's Instagram's normal. Yeah, it's normal. When girls are in a cafe, they're talking to each other. Even if they're in like a better cafe that might be a bit thotty, they're still not taking photos. You don't see little puppy dog boyfriend taking photos of the thought girl. You don't see any of this. It just doesn't exist here. And I think it does have its roots in this kind of more relationship. When I say relationship, I mean broadly defined human relationships, not just romantic relationships. I think it's got its roots in this idea of people having stronger family roots, stronger social roots, and you're actually loved here. You have your family, you have your friends. People put each other first in a lot of ways. Now I am idealizing a little bit, right? I'm idealizing a bit. The culture, it's not that good, but an element of the culture is this kind of empathy and caring about other people's feelings. Like it's kind of center, getting along and caring about the person's feelings is fundamental here. Yeah, it's not ruled, like in Australia, for example, it's ruled by the social norms, you know. Really interesting example was I was in a language school here and the teacher said how, look, sometimes in the universities they wait until maybe 10 past, quarter past to make sure all the students get there. It's like, what the fuck? So everyone's waiting for one student, right? You might have 100 students. I mean, I took lectures with up to like 300 students back in Australia. And I remember on a Monday morning, I had an 8 o'clock lecture once. And the first 2 weeks, I found students just strolling in whenever the fuck they felt like it. And, you know, this is not how you run a class, right? You're going to wait for the laziest person to get there, you know? So I used to tell them, look, guys, everyone's just strolling in like it's a fucking picnic. Yeah, you're walking at 20 past 8. Next week, I'm locking the door at 8 o'clock. Don't you dare fucking knock, yeah? I'm not letting you in, right? You get here at 8, you're in the class by 8, or just go back home. Yeah, if you're on the way and you know you're not going to make it by 8, just turn around and go home, right? And that's how we do it in Australia, right? You're forcing, with discipline, you're forcing everyone to kind of lift up to a standard. Whereas here, it's like, no, you can't do that because you'll upset the students, right? I don't want to oversimplify it, but this is just like a comparison of one anecdote. Now, he was saying also there's a limit to this, right? There's a limit. So it's not perfectly like that. It's not like it's going to wait for everyone. You know? But there is this kind of waiting and whatever kind of culture. And I think this makes people feel loved or something, and they don't need to be a thought. Again, look, I'm making some pretty broad stroke statements. But nonetheless, this is kind of the point of the video, is that there's no thoughts here. There's no thought cafes. There's no thought behavior in cafes. There's just people with strong interpersonal relationships. Yeah, people with strong interpersonal relationships. And look, maybe they fooled me a bit. Maybe they're bluffing a bit. Yeah, and I'm not idealizing the society or the culture at all. Yeah, this is what I'm seeing. And that lack of thoughtiness, after being in Russia, Belarus, and in places like Vietnam, but even other places, not just Vietnam, in Southeast Asia, it's really, something that's quite this kind of sickness that's going around the world. But it's not here, mate. It's fucking immune. Like, you got heaps of feminism here and lots of foreign NGOs pushing their political ideology onto these poor people as well, like you do everywhere. But you don't have this thoughtiness coming in here. So anyway, just interesting thought. Tell me what you think. What do you think about thoughts? What do you think about thought cafes? Do you think it's fine? Am I being a grumpy old fuck? Yeah, let me know.